Welcome to the Redemption Life Podcast, a resource from Redemption Church, Twin Cities. Through these conversations, we aim to explore what it looks like to live a redeemed life, rooted in the gospel, formed by Scripture, and shaped in community. You can find more information about our church at redemptiontc.com. But in the meantime, we hope that this resource encourages you and helps you to know and follow Jesus.
All right, we're back with the Redemption Life Podcast, back with my friend Austin Miller here. I'm Drew Stevenson, and we are wanting to talk about basically our philosophy of ministry. So, Austin, how would you describe our shared philosophy of ministry? When we talk about ministry, what are the kind of recurring themes and topics that tend to come up?
Yeah, totally. Well, one of the recurring themes is that we're not that impressive. And so we kind of have embraced that. And, you know, several of our friends are feeling kind of the same way. But one of the verses that has just helped us have confidence in this, that we're not that impressive, but that's kind of the whole point, is from 2 Corinthians, when Paul is talking about having a treasure within him but he's a jar of clay. He's got this treasure in jars of clay to show that the surpassing power belongs to God and not to us. And so that's been a helpful anchor verse for me, because I know more than anybody just how average I am.
Have you heard the Jake Each? Jake Each is the lead pastor of Veritas Church in Cedar Rapids, guy in our network. Have you heard his rendition of that verse?
Oh, yeah. Steak in Tupperware.
Steak in Tupperware.
Or brisket. I think he uses it.
Brisket
in
in
Tupperware.
Tupperware.
It's so good.
But the good stuff's inside,
Mm-hmm.
and we're just the casing or the shell.
And maybe actually, if you're listening to this and you were at church, a couple weeks ago, I preached on that passage and I did my own little rendition, but it was because of being inspired by Jake Each. My version was, it's cookies in Tupperware, my mom's delicious chocolate chip cookies inside of Tupperware.
Yep.
But even there, you have evidence of that idea didn't even come from me.
You borrowed it from somebody else.
I borrowed it from someone else.
But if you change it to cookies, not steak or brisket,
well,
is it stealing it from somebody else, or
it's more true about
different?
Me? Because the other thing that everybody needs to know about me is the thing that I love most, the food category that I love most is sweets. I'm a big gummy worms guy, big dessert guy. So I felt like, cookies was the right, that's a real treasure.
Did you know that the one gummy that I can't say no to is Sour Patch Kids?
I think I actually did know that.
So this year at Halloween with my kids, I had them spread out their candy, and I call it Dad Tax. And the Dad Tax is all of the Sour Patch Kids.
That's ruthless, man.
But I mean, I start off with the bold, like all the Sour Patch Kids, and then I let them keep a few.
That's good.
Yeah. So
what would you add on top of that, Drew? Just like ministry philosophy, jars of clay with a treasure inside, so we're not boasting in our like impressiveness on the outside, but also we do believe that there's something amazing happening in our lives, Yeah, how would you expound on just our ministry philosophy?
Well, I mean, a lot of it comes from my lived experience. So I went to Ball State University in Muncie, Indiana, which, from the jump, that doesn't ring out as an impressive institution. And part of the reason I was there was because motivation was really hard for me to find when I was in high school. So, like, even those are my kids now. I have 5 kids that struggle with motivation in school. That's super relatable to me because I was always asking the why question. And the why question, although philosophically helpful, is not typically that practically helpful.
No.
And so I think I lived my life before being called to ministry and even as an early Christian, just wondering, like, am I good at anything? Am I, even valuable? I guess, would have been a question. And so I think it was as God was building me up through like gospel discovery that I felt like I discovered the best secret in the world. And I try to say it a lot at our church, which is just like that God loves sinners. And then right on the heels of that is God uses ordinary people or broken people to accomplish his mission. And so like I love to tell the story of kind of my early call to ministry. So first of all, I was doing ministry before I knew what ministry was when I was in high school. And it was just, I was part of Young Life. And I was inviting my friends to come to Young Life. And usually like this was like my get this gospel presentation. Like, you're going to want to write this down, right? It was like, hey, jerks. Right? I was in high school. Like, hey, jerks, do you want to come to Young Life tonight? And like my friends just started showing up.
Wow.
Like I was the only kid in my grade who went. And by my senior year, there were dozens of kids who came. And then it was just, hey, jerk, do you want to come to Bible study? And then guys came to Bible study and just start to see people's lives transformed. So that was kind of the beginning of it. But I think at that point, my understanding of the gospel was like, it's forgiveness of sins, and now I've got to prove myself to God. And so there was this underlying like hustle. It was understanding that we're really from Romans 5, by the one man's disobedience, the many were made sinners. By the one man's obedience, the many will be made righteous. So I had this like gospel aha that God sees me as he sees his son. And I was like, whoa, that's crazy. And then the first time I was asked to preach in front of a big crowd, I was so scared because I'd basically said to God at that point, listen, I know you're calling me to ministry. I'll do anything except for public speaking. And was asked to teach in front of 500 or 600 people and said yes. And basically was like, okay, God, if you get me through this, I won't say no to a public speaking opportunity out of fear again. And I got up in front of the group and my mind went completely blank. And like, I literally just said something like, my mind's blank. I need to pray. Prayed, asked for God's help, and preached the rest of the message. And after preaching the message, was making my way back to my seat, and the crowd clapped from the time I left the stage till my butt hit the seat. And like a couple things happened, right? One was, whoa, I'm being called to this. Like people are being impacted this. That's why they're clapping. But that wasn't me.
Right.
That was God. That was Tupperware getting used. And so it's like almost every time I publicly speak or hear that God's using me, I just remember that and am just like, no way.
Well, you've even talked about how it's comedic. Like it's funny that God uses people like us, because it's so obvious to us that any benefit that comes or salvation story that comes or spiritual growth within our church is not to our credit, not to your credit, but it's amazing.
Right. What's your, like, salvation / call to ministry, average pastor story?
Yeah. Well, I was a student at the University of Minnesota, went to school there. 2017 was when I started, and that was the same year that Redemption Church was planted here in the Twin Cities. And so, it's crazy to think back to my journey throughout college. And, I grew up in a home that treasured Christ, but I was a super prideful, super just arrogant, self-obsessed young dude. And coming to college, when I went to Salt Company and heard the gospel, it just wrecked my life. and totally transformed the way that I saw myself, because I think for some of the first times ever, I really realized that next to a holy God, I am completely broken and just have nothing to boast about in his presence. And just the reality, like you're talking about, that God, through his son, Jesus, actually draws close to me and looks at me now with Christ's perfection and not with my just broken sin. And just totally transformed my life. I feel like, leading up to college through freshman year, I was just living for myself, wanting people to be impressed with me, wanting applause, wanting credit, wanting recognition, really. But through the gospel, it made me realize I can live for something way better. I can live for making God glorified, giving him credit, and helping not only myself, but helping others see that he's always the most important person in the room. And so through college, I got involved with Salt Company, and then eventually, when I was a senior, I started to get close with some of the staff that was on Salt Company staff at the time, and one of them was Drake Epkiss, and he ended up offering me a job to work for Salt Company when I graduated, and I took the job not knowing at all what ministry was like. I had no idea what it meant to work for ministry, but I knew that I was going to be doing it with people that I loved, because I loved just the Salt staff at the time, and was excited about the opportunity to just kind of live my life on mission and learn what it was like to be, a ministry worker. But then eventually, I was doing it for 2 years, and I was like, I don't think I'm very good at this. And I was kind of looking around and like, man, there's the people that are in these director positions, like, I think they're probably going to be around for a while, and I don't know if I can even do that. And then, you sat me down once upon a time at Uptown Diner, and eventually, you're like, hey, Austin, do you want to lead? I want you to lead Salt Company. And I was just like totally floored, completely shocked, and didn't think I could do it, really. And that was a crazy season of my life, which we can get into more after.
I remember your response so well, because you were shocked, and it was so obvious that you were shocked. But your response was filled with faith, and it was just, man, in order to do this, I'm just going to have to be on my knees a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And so you didn't respond in pride, like, I got this, but you also didn't respond in fear. And so I think when we talk about the treasure being in jars of clay, we don't want to be focused on, oh, I'm nothing. And
right.
This isn't like navel-gazing introspection, hopefully.
Right.
Although we can fall into that like anybody else can. But it's, well, I'm not anything special, but God, like, he uses people like, so we can trust him and step out in faith. So anyway,
Totally. Yeah. And that began just a crazy first year of leading Salt Company in weakness. And, it was such a joy. I had one of your job descriptions that you gave to me was just have fun, like make sure that Salt Company stays fun, and to let just like the joy of the gospel influence how we do ministry. And it has been such a privilege to lead Salt Company and to rejoice in the good news of the gospel. And but the weakness has continued, like I'm in my third year of leading Salt Company, and I still just feel a level of, man, apart from God, I can't do this. And so, but I'm filled with faith, just seeing how much he's shown up for me, and it's been a privilege. So, I feel like the way that I got called into ministry and started out was just in weakness and not feeling impressive or even really capable, but just believing that God could do something sweet with faithfulness and just showing up and giving my best, but trusting that the treasure inside of me is worth proclaiming and rejoicing in. So that's kind of my start to working for Salt Company.
I feel like to put some feet on this, because like I get the feeling sometimes when we talk about this, like we have this shared experience of being in ministry and our role being super public. But I feel like it'd be helpful for people if we kind of filled this in a little bit. And so, like, what are we bad at?
Oh,
like,
yeah. I'm really bad at planning, you know? Like, it's so easy to talk about some of the things I'm bad at. I'm bad at planning. This is why I love my wife. She's so good at planning. She's a forward thinker, you know, organized.
Yeah.
Has priorities in line. I feel like, you know, one of the things that I'm bad at is having like a 5-year, 10-year plan, you know?
Yeah.
Looking ahead with focus and ambition, you know?
Yeah.
I'm more about like, I just want to have a good time, you know? And that can lack some direction and
Totally.
planning for the future. Yeah.
Yeah, I can relate to that. There was a girl not too long ago at our church who talked to me at the Brown Couch. And I think a lot of people are feeling this at this stage in the life of redemption. Like, I want to be known. And like being known is a good thing. But they were connecting being known to me knowing something that had recently happened in their life. And they're like, you don't even know that this happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I was laughing. I'm like, not only did I not know that that's happening, I don't know what's happening tonight at my house. Like, so my wife, like, this is my routine on the way home, is she sends me a screenshot, like hockey practice, cheerleading practice, you know, all the different things that my kids have going on, because I don't keep a calendar.
Mm.
So the way that I keep myself like going on what's next is I was explaining this to my daughter Aria. I have to email myself because like this is like a characteristic of the Stevenson men. So I definitely see it in my dad. I see it in my son Gabe. But it's like we have one-track minds.
Mm-hmm.
And so like I can't keep calendar email in my mind. So I have to like email myself what's coming up.
Wow.
So I'm basically saying to her, like, if your connection to the church or feeling loved is me knowing what's going on, then no one would feel loved.
Yeah,
in
totally.
our church. Because I just like, and that's something I so appreciate. Like, it's amazing to me. People on our staff team,
Mm-hmm.
like Julie
Mm-hmm.
or Jennifer Tuttle,
Mm-hmm.
like people who have administrative gifts.
So helpful.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I find that when we're having our breakfasts at Hazel's,
Mm-hmm.
we're often talking about how thankful we are
Totally.
for teams.
Absolutely.
You know, like I was even having a conversation with Isaac on our staff, you know, and he's been stepping into this role of community pastor
Mm-hmm.
and is such a good shepherd of people.
Mm-hmm.
And his tendency in relationship with people is just to slow down, and he doesn't make quick decisions.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying that in a super positive way, because God's just wired him in such like a relationally merciful way. And I both have to rejoice in that, but simultaneously, like, there's part of me that's like, man, I wish I was more like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I think people maybe think that if you're in this prominent ministry role and you're up front, that you don't feel insecurity anymore, or maybe I don't know, teaching gets put in this position in the church like it's the most important gift. But I don't know, the longer I've been doing this, the more I appreciate the whole body of Christ and the need for the church to experience all of these different gifts. And it's like, you know how Paul says, who's adequate for these things?
Right.
And it's a rhetorical question, but it's like, nobody.
Right.
Like, in the moment we start feeling like, oh, I've got this, I've got ministry figured out. We both love this quote from our mutual friend, Mark Arendt. He says, ministry is like chess, and I don't know how to play chess.
That's one of my favorite quotes. It's true.
Right? What do you love about that?
I love it because, ministry, it seems like, I guess I love it because I don't think that I'm ever going to master it. And there's a sense of, I'm so glad that I don't think I have it figured out, because it makes it a fun adventure every day. Like, man, what is God going to teach me, and how can I grow? But yeah, I just also don't think that ministry is formulaic, but it's we've talked about this a lot, that ministry is relationships, and it wouldn't be so complex if it weren't for the people. It wouldn't be so messy if it weren't for the people, but it wouldn't be so amazing if it weren't for the people. Ministry is all about just like loving and enjoying and serving people with the gospel. And so I feel like that's why I don't know how to do it, is because I'm constantly learning about people and just the complexity, but the beauty of it. So yeah, I don't think I've got it figured out, and I think that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm. How do you think, like, as you look at our church as a whole, I mean, you're focused mainly on college ministry, although you teach on Sundays and are in a connection group and vitally involved in the life of redemption. But in terms of like your work hours, you're spending a lot of time with college students.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think they need to hear related to the way God wants to use them in the life of our church?
Yeah.
Like those who think they've got nothing to bring to the table, or
right.
all that.
I just, I feel like over the years I've gotten this picture of just ordinary faithfulness that has been more and more beautiful to me. Just like that God loves to use the ordinary to do something amazing. And he showed me that pretty obviously through the people that I first met through the Salt Company. And when I got to go overseas after my sophomore year, I got to go visit Clinton Miranda Robinson. And they hosted our team and just showed us what it was like to be on mission in a different place. But one of the things that I came away from that trip feeling was just so amazed with how like me they were. They were ordinary people that were fascinating. I mean, interesting, really enjoyable to be around. But the thing that helped them do something amazing for God wasn't that they were in and of themselves impressive, but they were just captivated by the beauty of Jesus and decided, oh, okay, well, I'm going to do the next right thing. I'm seeing a need where there's lost people in this area. Let's go to them. And so they did something very simple. I mean, it was bold and it was difficult, still has been quite a journey, but the action step for them was just simple obedience, ordinary obedience and faithfulness, and just continuing to show up and being trustworthy people. And through that, God has just done something amazing through their lives. And so I feel like the thing that I've learned and I'm still learning is just the beauty of really ordinary obedience, like steady movement in the same direction over a long period of time is where amazing things happen. And I guess that's what I would want college students to see, that like the real journey of following Jesus in ordinary life for the rest of their life is worth it, and that's where the secret sauce is, you know.
Yeah, one of the things that I love to say in that same vein, whenever I get in front of college students, I mean, you've heard me say this several times, maybe even as a student, I said it, but it's redefining the word passion to its original definition, right? So you think of the way that we typically use passion is more like excitement. So passion is the person who sits in the front row at church, and when the loud song comes on, they jump up and throw their hands in the air, and they're the person who gets so excited and gives some woos when we talk about our baptism service coming up, and there's lots of visible show.
Yeah, hype.
It's hype, right? Or it's the person who, when they get the mic, they pump up the crowd and everyone's so excited and all that. But when you think of the word passion, what I want people to think of is the passion of the Christ, right? I remember when that movie came out, and I remember watching it in the theater, and people left stunned. Why? Because of the level of sacrifice that Jesus was willing to go through for us in order to secure our salvation. Right? And so passion is actually what you talked about. It's the willingness to suffer for the gospel.
Yeah.
It's the willingness in ordinary life. And so when we think about suffering for the gospel, we often think of going somewhere else and doing that. Like
Right.
the noble way to suffer for the gospel is go overseas and share the gospel with people. And people should do that. Like,
Totally.
people are called to do that. That's an amazing way to do it. But it's getting up and spending time with Jesus, and it's raising your kids to know, love, and follow after him. And it's loving your wife by unloading the dishwasher, and it's setting up your auto giving online. And it's doing a bunch of these hidden, ordinary things that actually add up to this amazing life. But it's only really amazing in retrospect. Like, if you talk about what you did that day, it doesn't sound impressive, or it doesn't sound passionate. But when I think of passion redefined, I think of people like Dave and Kaylee Hunting
Totally.
in our church.
Yeah.
Right? Who have just long obedience, same direction, one step after another, making hard decisions, doing the next right thing, and adjusting with the season of life to be faithful in that season of life. And those really are my heroes.
It's awesome.
In our church, which I think that's part of the reason we're doing this,
Totally.
is not to draw attention to us.
Totally.
Like, we have zero ambition to build a platform, or
Yeah.
to, like, it almost sounds funny like when we think about us building a platform, but we're not, like, we're trying to draw attention to the life of redemption, what's happening, what we have a front row seat to.
Absolutely. Yeah. Totally.
Who are some of your ordinary heroes?
I'd say, well, I mentioned it already, but Clint and Miranda Robinson are some ordinary heroes, though they did do the noble and daring thing of moving overseas.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, let me just fill in a little story on Clint and Miranda so people who don't know who they are can know who they are. So I was on staff with Clint in Iowa City, I believe from 2012 to 2014. And Clint was like the jack of all trades, master of none kind of guy on the staff. Like, he shepherded people. He also, like, ran sound. He set up the sound system. I mean, he just basically did anything. But he accidentally started IFC
The
And-
international
and
student ministry.
the international student ministry, and pretty soon, like 30 or 40 people were coming over to Clinton Miranda's house. But he talked about it in the most ordinary way. It was just like, oh yeah, we have lots of friends who are Chinese, and we just invite them over, and then we talk about what we love, which is Jesus, and we get to see people come to Jesus. And so, like, I remember baptizing this dude that was in that group. I don't know why I ended up baptizing him, but he was this, I think his name was Xavier. He was like this 300-pound Chinese guy. I almost couldn't pull him back out of the water. But there were all these just cool stories happening in the life of Veritas Church at that point. And the ask for them to go overseas was just like, do you want to go overseas and just continue to do what you're doing? Because that would be incredible if you did that. And they've just been doing that for all these years, since I believe 2014.
It's awesome.
And now our church supports them. And that's why you got to go see them, which is like this full circle,
For sure.
super cool thing.
Yeah. Super thankful for kind of their vision of faithfulness. And yeah, I got to go visit them with Cora just on a little trip. That was like a year ago, coming up on a year ago, that we got to go visit them overseas and just see some of the ministry that they're continuing to do, and just thankful for them. But I'd say another one of my just like average, I think, dude, I love my dad so much, and it's been fun to kind of, as I've grown older now, post college, I'm doing real life, and anticipating the birth of my first child, like Cora and I, and now being like friends with my dad, and he's not only just like a mentor and a father figure, of course, but we've been able to have more of like a friendship in the past couple of years, and just seeing the way that he is doing real life and figuring out how to follow Jesus as an engineer and as a member of a church, and as now a widow, because my mom died of cancer a couple of years ago. And so he's just like navigating real painful life, not as a ministry worker, but just really encountering like, what does the hope of the gospel do for him in those really, really real moments of life. And so it's been sweet to kind of get a front row seat to.
We both stand on the shoulders of our parents.
Absolutely.
And like, I was just talking to your dad at church on Sunday, back by the brown couch. Like, he just came and talked, and he's like, man, I've never been in ministry, but I've always been around people who are in ministry, and was just like expressing appreciation. But he's always been on the front lines, just loving people and studying the Bible and
totally
worshiping Jesus. And I feel the same way about my parents. Like, one of the things I realized probably, I don't know, probably 10 or 15 years ago, something like that, was like, and now it's even longer. My parents have been in connection groups for like, so my dad's 70, almost 71. I mean, coming up on 50 years.
Wow.
And like, they were known at the churches of like, there's somebody you don't know what to do with, like causing problems in other groups, or just they don't know how to place them, like, for whatever reason. Put them in my parents' group.
Yeah.
And my parents will just love them, and
it's awesome.
And all that. And it's like, we were just raised by ordinary, faithful people, which actually is extraordinary.
Totally. Yeah, it's so fun to look back on my life and realize just the investment that they made in me, that I didn't even realize how valuable it was. I was talking to my dad too, just about him helping me see what leadership really is. Like, he was one of the first people that told me about leadership being influence. And it was because I was in high school, and I was a part of the drum line when I was in high school, and that was kind of my thing. And he was just bringing to my awareness, like, hey, Austin, I want you to know that people are looking at you and following you. And you'll bring people a certain direction based on your behavior and the words that you say. So steward that influence that you have. You've got it, whether you like it or not. And that kind of blew my mind. Because I didn't realize what a gift and what a responsibility that was to steward people's attention and this role that I had within that drum line. But just thinking of lessons and how that has totally prepared me for things that I've stepped into now. And so absolutely standing on the shoulders of my dad. And he would say the same about his dad. Like there's this sweet legacy for my grandparents and on of just faithful Christians loving Jesus and wanting to bring.
I don't know if I've heard about your dad's dad.
Well, similar to you, I mean, you could connect this to that sweet picture that hangs in your office. But
yeah, I'll describe that in a bit.
My dad grew up on a farm in Fairhaven, Minnesota, which is kind of near St. Cloud, and I think I have this right that my grandpa, so my dad's dad, was born in the house on that property, like literally in the house. So born, lived, and has now passed away, but just he was a farmer. And there are some old stories of him, he just wanted to be faithful with quite literally the soil that he had.
Do you want to do a hot take on home birth here? Do you want to take like a really bold stand on one side or the other?
Not at all. No, I do not want to do that.
We're not doing that on the podcast.
But I have been reading a lot about birth, so
Oh no.
Definitely don't want to make
not
that
true. What does a lot mean?
What is that? Well, dude, I got some books, Mayo Clinic's How to Have a Healthy Pregnancy.
Yeah.
And, we were gifted some,
Yeah.
just the partner's
man.
role.
Yeah.
I'm trying my best.
You're not average at everything. You're really good at preparing for being a husband and dad.
I guess.
Yeah.
No. We'll see how it goes. I think Cora's going to do great. I'm just trying to catch up, though, to be honest. She's so good at just reading and consuming resources. But
okay, I just derailed that.
Yeah, that's
so
all right.
bad. I wanted to hear about your grandpa.
Well, my grandpa, he was a farmer, and so he wanted to just be faithful in his role and do a good job there. And there's so much to be learned about just the faithfulness of farming.
Yeah.
As it relates to the Christian life. But one of the stories that I love about my grandpa is that what would he do? He had this desire for people in his church or people in his neighborhood to hear the gospel, but he knew that some people wouldn't want to go to church on a Sunday. And so what he would do is he would, go and get the pastor of their local church to hop in his truck, and then he would drive to the neighbor's house and say, "Hey man, you need to meet the pastor." "Hey, pastor, share the good news of the gospel with these guys."
Oh, we got to do that.
Is this an idea around the city?
Totally.
Man. But I just loved that. Like, oh, you're not going to go to church? All right. Well, I'm going to bring the gospel to you. And he was doing that just as a faithful farmer. And so there's this legacy of people just loving Jesus and understanding, like, we need to get this message out so that people can hear the gospel. So I'm thankful for that legacy.
Wow. So the incredible story, like I remember my dad telling me the story when I was, I don't know, upper elementary school, something like that. But it's always just been cemented in my mind. My grandpa, his dad, was in his 30s and was an elder at their church. He was also a farmer at this little church in Mitchellville, Iowa, just east of Des Moines. And they had what's called the Lay Witness Mission come in, which was like a touring evangelistic group. And they were doing events for the youth at night. And they were doing like altar calls, and my grandpa was an elder, so he would go. And it was like I believe the last night. I might be getting some of these details wrong. I believe it was the last night. And they did an altar call. And my grandpa walked down the aisle in front of the church, like admitting that he wasn't a Christian. And this was a church that was a church in name only. They didn't preach the good news of the gospel or really understand the way of salvation. And he gave his life to Christ. And my dad remembers him going to a neighboring farmer's house And they had been in a kind of a feud, like over a shady land deal that had happened a long time ago. And my grandpa just went to his door and knocked and just told him that he forgave him. And he had been a bitter man before that, and just offered forgiveness. And that obviously deeply impacted my dad's life. And I just remember my grandpa, he died a few years ago, but when he would see me, he would always get tears in his eyes. And it was like this kind of steely look that he had. And he said, God's going to use you to bring revival to this country. You know?
Wow.
And whose grandpa says that to them? Like, gives them
Seriously.
that kind of vision
Yeah.
for their life. And there's just this legacy of faith that's present in both of our families. And it's like we're walking on the narrow road like everybody else, but it's like these people are calling, whether they're alive or they've gone to be with Jesus. And it's like they're telling us, like, stay on that road of faithfulness. Just keep following. They've joined the great cloud of witnesses of, Hebrews 12. And they're just telling us, like, keep going, keep going, keep going. It's so beautiful. But
awesome.
But the picture that Austin was referring to, that I look at almost every time I prep a message, it's a picture of my grandpa's farm that he grew up on, that his dad, grew up on. And it's a reminder of, I'll often just look at that and I'll just think, I'm just a farmer. Like, I just need to be faithful. Paul says, I planted, Apollos watered, but it's God who gave the growth.
Totally.
And we're just faithful to present the gospel. That's the seed.
Yep.
And watch God grow it.
How do you feel like that translates for, people who are not in vocational ministry, and just like that vision for ordinary faithfulness and kind of being a farmer in their own lane or their kind of plot of land? Like, how would you relate that to somebody just in our church that is wondering how to be faithful?
Yeah. I think that there can be this idea, like, if I was in vocational ministry, that would take care of my purpose problem. And I think that doing your work unto the Lord, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So it's possible to do vocational ministry in the flesh out of a sense of pride and self-importance, and really be doing it to build your own reputation, platform, legacy, whatever it is, instead of doing it unto the Lord. And you rob yourself of the joy of presenting it to God, your life to God as a living sacrifice. And so I think my encouragement to people not in vocational ministry is, and this is like one of the foundations of the Protestant Reformation, right? It's this understanding that working for God is what turns the ordinary into worship.
Yeah.
And so I would say, no matter what you're doing, as long as it's not sin, right? Like, you can be an engineer to the glory of God. You can be a teacher to the glory of God. You can mow your lawn to the glory of God.
Amen.
Or grab
definitely got some amens.
Yeah, totally. Grab the snowblower this time of year to the glory of God. Well, what does it mean to do it to the glory of God?
Yeah.
It means to do it with a song of praise to Him in your heart, and do it well. Like, I'm going to get the ice off the driveway so no one slips and falls, because I love my neighbor as myself. So it doesn't always mean, like, it doesn't mean you're in your, Boston Scientific group and that means, like, doing it for the glory of God. I think people often imagine it's like, that means I'm taking every opportunity to share the gospel with people. And it could just mean, like, I am making the best device that I possibly can. Like, I'm putting the full strength of my effort into making this device as good as possible for the good of the most people.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody on your team after 10 years is like, you just have such focus and you work so hard. Like, what's different? And you're like, Jesus is my Lord. And that's what really gives purpose. Not that we always do that, right? That's why we have to believe the gospel. Right?
For the moments where we're not focused.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Yeah, I love that. I feel like my view of the Christian life has expanded and grown over the years as I've realized just the beauty of work as worship. And I love what you're saying with that. And just that everything, it's not like the Christian life means nothing matters except Jesus. It's that Jesus in your life means everything can matter for the sake of honoring him and helping and loving people. So.
Okay, so we got to let people in. This is, again, a Mark Arendt-ism that I've taken with me from Iowa City. Mark wrote this book called The Advantage of Average that we both read, we love, we recommend. I'd encourage you to pick it up on Amazon, or you could listen to him read it on Kindle, which I haven't done.
Can you really?
I think would be sweet, yeah. On Audible, not Kindle, right? But anyway, Mark, he says that you need to have a candy aisle in your life.
Yes, you do.
And so you can't spend all your time in the candy aisle, but you should spend some time there, right? And so one of the things we often are talking about, we both have a mutual love for basketball.
For sure.
Right?
Yeah, we have good conversation about the NBA.
Yeah.
It's real good.
And we, Nate, you love talking about the NBA. We were just talking about Bones Highlands.
Dude, he could be the solution.
Yeah. Is it Highland or Highlands?
Highland.
Highland.
It's Highland.
It's it's
Bones.
singular.
What a name.
What a dog of a name. Hey, what's up? My name's Bones.
I love that. But yeah, it's a fun time to be a Timberwolves fan for sure. That's always good fuel for the conversation is how the Wolves are doing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But how do you, okay, let's get a little bit deep about this. How do we distinctly love the candy aisle as Christians? Because hobbies and sports and entertainment and all these things, it can get way out of proportion.
For sure.
That's, I think, a particular temptation for young men.
For sure. Yep.
Right?
Yep.
But where does that fit into following after Jesus and loving him and
totally
honoring him?
Yeah. I guess something that has helped me a bunch is remembering that Jesus came to give us life and give it to us abundantly. He wants to have us to have joy. One of the real fruit of the Spirit in us is joy and enjoying the gifts that God has given us. And so I feel like there's room to really enjoy the kind of the edges of the world that God has created and just his genius behind it, and even enjoy hobbies for the sake of saying thank you to God and just the life that he's given us. But just not making it the main thing, I guess, and being able to recognize where a certain hobby or whatnot could be an escape from real life instead of something given for us to enhance just enjoying ordinary life with God. But that's why I love the phrase, the candy aisle, that it's you should go down the candy aisle every once in a while, but if candy's all you eat, you're going to be sick to your stomach and your teeth are going to rot out. So
right.
You obviously need the fundamental diet of your life to be what is going to be nutritious for you, but the sweetness of the candy aisle is helpful for just the joy of life.
Yeah.
I don't know. How do you think you even talk about just as a way to be generous to your family. You enjoy participating in and enjoying basketball, sports, games.
Yeah.
It's a way of enjoying real life with your family. And in that way, you're demonstrating the real like
Yeah.
character trait of God being a generous father, you know?
Right.
Is that part of how you think about the candy aisle and like enjoying some of these hobbies or sports or whatnot with your family?
Yeah. So last night I was at a hockey game watching my son Gabe play, and he's like the coach's son. I mean, I don't coach, I didn't play hockey, but he's just like that hustle
Mm-hmm.
player. And it's so interesting being a pastor because there's sacrifices that you make. Like, we're going to give to the building campaign. We're going to give at least 1/10 of our income to the church. We're going to lead out. Like, I don't want to ask people in our church to do what I'm not doing. That's the way I see being a lead pastor. But that's my sacrifice, not my kid's sacrifice. And what I mean by that is there are going to be sacrifices for them. But where the rubber meets the road for me is I would rather drive a 15-year-old car and have my boys play hockey so that we can still give to the latest building campaign or whatever it is.
Mhm.
Then drive a 3-year-old car, have my boys not play hockey, and give to the building campaign. So the sacrifice is mine. And that just gives me tons of joy because I feel this responsibility with my kids that my role in their life in part is to represent the Heavenly Father to them.
Right.
And at this stage in Gabe's life, he still thinks he could play in the NHL,
Right. Yeah.
even though he's on a C team.
Totally.
But he thinks he could.
Yeah.
And I just, what a gift.
Yeah.
To sit in the crowd and cheer him on. And like, he's still in that phase of life where whenever he gets on the ice, he waves at me or gives me the thumbs up.
Let's go.
And I don't want to miss that.
Totally.
And like, how does that blend with glorifying, honoring God? Like, you come to our church, like, those are so many of my illustrations.
For sure. Yeah.
Like, that's where I see, like, when I wave at Gabe or, like, I'm reminded, like, this is how God feels about me. Like, this is my life for him. Like I think I'm contributing.
Yeah.
Like something, like I have a sense of self-importance.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like us living this vision of like, we're jars of clay. Like, we're in process in that. Like, we get full of ourselves
For
and
sure.
are proud and whatever. But God's still, like, even in my flaws and imperfections and all that, like, I genuinely believe he's rooting us on.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm kind of like, eh, and he's like,
Check it out.
good job. Like,
Yeah. Totally.
and yeah, man.
I love that. I feel like that's been helpful for me as I'm, entering into being a father and just looking for lessons about God's grace in that role. You've said often, and this has helped me as I've, grown and began to preach the Bible more, but just getting to see that everything's an illustration. Jesus did it in his ministry when he's saying, hey, look at the birds of the air. Look at the flowers. And he's teaching us things about God in a full life, in an ordinary life, and letting us see that everything's an illustration. And so I'm excited to do that in fatherhood, to just have eyes to see what is God teaching me about who he is, But I wonder if that's part of, what we would hope for our church, is that it wouldn't just be us, the ones that are, teaching the Bible on a Sunday or on a Thursday, that are looking for illustrations of God's grace in our life, but that our whole church would have eyes for how God is hiding just these gems of beautiful, timeless truths just in ordinary life, and that would be sweet fuel for us to keep following Jesus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think, no matter what season of life people are in, I wish everyone in our church could have looked into the room when we were having a conversation about just what it looks like to follow Jesus in all the different stages of life that we're in on our staff team. Mm-hmm. So we do this thing as a staff called Staff Lunch, which is one of my highlights of the work week. And we either bring like a sack lunch, which is always funny to see what people bring because it's kind of a random smorgasbord of food and whatever. And but we just have a question, and it's just like, oh, how do we follow Jesus over Christmas break as we're home, as we're with family, and all that? And I was thinking of Liam, who's our youth leader's comment, just like, man, just want to get up and spend time in God's word every single day. And then it broke off into this discussion about what that looks like in all different seasons of life.
Right.
But one of the encouragements that I have for college students, and part of the reason we're doing this podcast is just to be able to speak to the different groups in our church. You know, a large swath of our church is college students, is just like, man, like the season of life that you're in right now, if you're in college, is like storing up food for the winter.
Nice. Yeah.
You know, it's like you have time.
Totally.
You can have these kind of ideal quiet times carved out in your life where you don't have to get up super early, or you're not interrupted by a small child or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And I don't want to shame anybody for that. Like, that's amazing.
Totally.
But just memorize scripture, listen to sermons, soak up great books. Like, what's your, like, what's a couple books that you're like, every college student or every person in our church, you hope they read at some point, that you've read that have just changed your life?
Oh, yeah. I think a couple of them that come to the top of my mind are one of my recent books that I've loved that has really impacted, like, as I'm thinking about teaching the Bible, is Preaching by Tim Keller.
Yeah.
That I think is actually a super practical help to anybody who wants to understand how all of the Bible points to the gospel, and how to communicate that to an age. I think the subtitle of that book is Communicating Faith in an Age of Skepticism.
Yeah.
Which I think is so right on, that would be our age. You know, just how do I talk about Jesus in a way that helps show the beauty of the gospel to people that just think it's full of crap.
Right.
And so I love that book. I would also say one of the books that changed my life was Don't Waste Your Life by John Piper.
Yeah.
And the third one is Surprised by Hope by N.T. Wright. Have you read that book?
I haven't.
It's about the resurrection. And I think one of the cool things he does in that book is he kind of debunks some of the myths about the resurrection of Christ. You know, like, oh, did they hide their body? You know, were there actually witnesses that saw it? But he basically, with historical evidence, proves that Jesus really did rise from the dead, and then gives the case. If Jesus really did rise from the dead, then what does that mean for our life right now and the hope that we have in him? And I feel like it just magnified that the hope of the resurrection really is the thing that our faith hinges on.
Yeah.
So we should know that it really happened, but the amazing reality is that there's historical basis for believing in it the same way that we believe other historical facts. So
cool.
Those are 3 books I love. Yeah, Surprised by Hope, Don't Waste Your Life, and Preaching by Tim Keller.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Do you have any that you would recommend for a college student or somebody going into winter break?
You know, one of them that comes to mind, it's so interesting how books can be like people that you meet that change your life, like that come in kind of in unexpected ways. But one of those for me is a book called True Spirituality by Francis Schaeffer. So I was at a big conference and I never heard of Francis Schaeffer. And this book's just, you know, on a table for $10. And I just read the back and picked it up. And it's one of those books I read almost every year that just grounds me in the truth of the gospel. It's basically this brilliant man, Francis Schaeffer, impacted a ton of people in the 60s and 70s last century. And he was part of a Presbyterian denomination, and basically the church felt lifeless to him. Like, the smart people weren't marked by love. And so he basically just goes out into the mountains and is just asking the question, what is Christianity all about? And so it's this brilliant man asking a really humble question. And that's the book, True Spirituality. This is what Christianity is all about. And so it just brings me back to the basics, but it really, the first time it taught me the basics
Yeah.
of what Christianity was about. So that's just a simple, although profound book as well about the gospel, true spirituality. And then Desiring God, that's the
Yeah.
first book I ever read.
Oh, are you serious?
Just in general.
Let's go.
Before that, I'd only read Sports Illustrated and Sports Illustrated for Kids. So I read that my freshman year of college. That's a funny thing about me. Proves I'm a jar of clay. I never read a book until I was a freshman in college.
That's how much you were a contrarian.
Yeah, that's how much of a contrarian
Here, read
I
this
was.
book. Why?
Exactly. Why would I read a book?
Yeah.
Well, turns out that would have been a useful thing to do.
Yeah.
But Desiring God, God is most glorified in us when we are most satisfied in him.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
That's
God's
awesome.
glory and our joy are not at odds with each other. It's when we pursue his glory that we are most satisfied. That is a life-changing reality. I remember, even in early marriage, it's like I wanted to serve my wife. And that helped me wash the dishes.
Oh, yeah.
It helped me
For sure.
It helped me race her to the dishes
Nice.
because I was like, my greatest joy is going to be when God is glorified in my life. I often think about that now. When there's something I don't want to do
Yeah.
that God is calling me to do, this is going to bring me the greatest joy.
Yeah.
And I really got that from that book. And then Jerry Bridges, The Discipline of Grace,
Nice. Yeah, totally.
is another. It's kind of a spiritual disciplines book,
Yeah.
but really grace anchored.
Yeah. Which is so helpful.
The pursuit of holiness is vital, but it's motivated by grace,
yeah.
not
Performance.
performance or trying to justify yourself. So those would be the three I would say
So good.
stick out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I just thought of? This is kind of random, but you know what I started doing again? We talked about this last year. Cold showers in the morning. Dude, it is amazing. But you reminded me of that when you're talking about just joy is found in glorifying God, not in comfort, not
Yeah.
in just like grabbing things for yourself to make your life easier. And that's what the cold shower in the morning is reminding me of. It has been a sweet experience to shock my body in the morning and say out loud as the cold water is freezing my skin to say, oh, my life is not about being comfortable, but it's helping me do like a hard thing, but seeing the joy in it and helping me just remember that like life as a servant and life following Jesus is the best thing for me, but hey, I'm telling all the college students that I'm hanging out with, like, dude, you should try taking a cold shower in the morning. It'll fire you up.
Yeah, we want people in our church to choose to follow Jesus on the narrow road, do hard things
Mm-hmm.
because it's worth it,
Yeah.
not because it's comfortable. Like when I think about that, one of the most worth it, uncomfortable things I've ever done is adopt.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things I often think about is my death. I know this is kind of morbid, but I think it's wise to think about your death. And I often think, when I'm dying and I see Luke and Emma's faces, am I going to regret that decision?
Mm.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
Like, to do something hard, like adopt from a foreign country and glorify and honor God in doing something like that, although inconvenient, expensive, the world would tell you in a lot of ways it's a bad idea, but what a worth it thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then down to the micro decisions of life, right? Am I going to read my Bible today or go to some cheesy entertainment or whatever? Like, in all of those things, we just don't regret when we choose to do the hard thing.
Totally.
Yeah,
Totally.
that's good. I think this
Yeah.
is a good stopping place. How long have
I
we been
feel
going, Nate?
Like hour 4.
Oh,
Oh,
wow.
That went by so fast.
That
How
was
about
great.
it? Yeah, that was good.
Hey, even if, it's just my dad, my mom, Do you think Jennifer and Ellen will listen to our podcast?
They're only going to listen to the ones that they're on.
Maybe.
Who knows?
But even if it's just, a few people,
Yeah.
we're going to enjoy this.
Yeah, it's fruitful. Yeah, I'm thankful for it.
Great.
What a journey. Let's go.
All right. Do you want to, what's the sign off?
Oh, the sign off is let's go be, Tupperware with cookies inside. We'll see ya.
Tupperware's all right. Sounds good. I'm in.